Hello and welcome to the Arise interview. 60 minutes of big questions about the big stories from the news and beyond with fresh insight and critical analysis. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Coming up in the next hour, as the Nigeria police force prepares to welcome sports enthusiasts from around the country to its 12th biennial police games kicking off in Anambra State this weekend, both the police and the state government are promising that it'll be the best ever in the history of the competition. But coming at a time when Nigeria is facing tremendous security challenges and the public perception of the police is at a very low ebb, should such celebratory games be taking place at all? We'll speak to the Chief Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Police, Frank Mba. And later, controversy, scandal, and a murder mystery in Lesotho, with the Prime Minister and his wife caught in an assassination investigation involving allegations so sinister that they have all the makings of a suspense thriller and a crime novel. We'll try to unpack this puzzlingly unsettling enigma wrapped in a conundrum that's landed the head of Lesotho's government in court and could lead to a major constitutional crisis in the southern African country. In a moment. Now, from this weekend and for the next week or so after that, the biennial Nigeria Police Games, the 12th in the series, will dominate activities in the Anambra state capital, Awka, and other parts of the state, as thousands of police officers, their families, and their friends descend on the state. Both the Anambra state government that's hosting the event and the police are keen to show it off as a platform for the force to communicate and cooperate with the public in a friendly manner, but also to remind the country of how much the police force has contributed and continues to contribute to national sports development. After all, it was the force that produced the first Nigerian Olympic gold medalist, Chioma Ajunwa, in 1996, and subsequently an upgraded gold medalist, Sunday Bada, 4 years later. So what can we expect from these games? And given that this country is suffering its worst insecurity for decades, with unspeakable violence taking place across many regions, should there be any events at all that would take so many police officers off the beat for a whole week? We'll speak to the Public Relations Officer for the Nigerian Police, Frank Mba, in a moment. But first, here's a snippet from the ceremony that unveiled the mascot and the logo for the games.
The police games is a strategic engagement that presents us with the opportunity to entertain and build goodwill with the general public in the manner that will fill the trust gap, strengthen confidence building between the citizens and the police, and accelerate the attainment of our community policing goals. It is in cognizance of this that the police games have evolved over the years to become an integral part of the rich history and proud tradition of the Nigerian police. In this regard, the 12th Nigerian Police Biennial Games will feature over 20 events which are expected to present a great spectacle for the relaxation and enjoyment of all our guests. I therefore seize this opportunity to invite all and sundry to Anambra State to enjoy the games with us.
Nigeria's police chief there. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the Chief Public Relations Officer for the Nigeria Police, Frank Mba. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you.
Very honored to have you.
Thank you.
Tell us more about these police games. What's the point of it and why should we be interested?
I know that Nigerians are interested. It is not a question of should they be interested.
Well, tell us why.
I know why. I know they
what
are
about
interested.
those who are not interested? They can't all be interested.
You know,
Convince us.
you know, the beautiful thing about sports is that even in a country where we have so much centripetal forces like ours, sports has become one huge centrifugal force. It is one thing that continuously bring brings us together as a people. Whenever we play football in this country, we momentarily drop off all our garbs. The garb of ethnicity, religion, and all those primordial sentiments that keep us perpetually at war with each other. And so, the average Nigerian out there would rather see sports as not just a comforting zone, but an entertaining zone. But again, let's look at the police games. This is a competition that is as old, that has been there for decades.
Well, yeah.
It started out, the first ever police games was held in 1946 in the old police sports ground in Obalende in Lagos. That was a time where Nigeria was still arranged on the regional basis. So you find there were regional police forces from both the southern and the northern protectorate competing for laurels. At that point in time, what we had was majorly a competition built around field, built around tracks. And then eventually we began to expand them from tracks to fields to football. And as I speak to you today, this competition will be featuring 31 different sports.
Right. I suppose we forget sometimes that the police are also people just like us, and that they are participants in every facet of sort of national life of the country, including sports.
You know, there's something Fela said.
Fela Kuti.
Fela Kuti beautifully put it. He rendered it in one of his classic music where he said, uniform, not clothes, not tailor.
Well, then he said a lot of other things,
yes,
which we probably weren't getting to.
You might not, I don't think even your preacher in your church, if you're one, if you're a Christian, or your preacher in your mosque, if you're a Muslim, I don't think you always agree with his preachings 100%.
Yeah, of course.
But that does not take away his calling. That does not take away his anointing. That does not take away his prophetic
Yeah,
gift.
but the point is that you're picking the bit about Fela Kuti that
No,
you
no.
obviously like, because
we can
majority
talk about,
of what he said is critical of the
we
police.
can talk about Fela Kuti forever. Some of us, the fact that someone has criticized me do not make me look at the person in demeaning way.
Well, that's a very progressive way.
I am very,
and I'm actually impressed by you saying.
I am very receptive to constructive criticism.
That's a very
Otherwise,
progressive.
I shouldn't be in this job.
Absolutely.
I shouldn't be in this. I shouldn't even be in this.
Well, what you're saying is very progressive and very impressive. So what can we expect from this?
I take that as a compliment, and I say thank you.
It is a compliment. What can we expect from this particular games? What will be the highlights?
The opening ceremony will be coming up on the 29th of this month. It's a Saturday.
That's this coming Saturday.
And the opening ceremony will be taking place at Alex Ekweme Square at Oka. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibanjo, will be declaring the games open. A few minutes ago, I was in a delegation led by AIG Akali Usman Baba, who is a first secretary but also doubles as the chairman of the sports planning committee, and AIG Muazu Zubero, the immediate past commissioner of police in Lagos State, who is now AIG in charge of counter-terrorism unit, were with the sports minister, Mr. Sunday Dari, where he also gave his assurances that he will be he will be attending the opening ceremony. In fact, the honorable minister went a step further to say they will be sending scouts to attend the event, because there is a new department in his ministry that is saddled with the responsibility of discovering talents and developing the
because I was just going to say, all you've told me about, I asked you what can I expect to see, is all the the officials,
in
officialdom
this game,
who are coming.
let me tell you part of the expectations.
Is it going to be televised? Will it be streamed online? Where can we see it? I mean, those are things that ordinary people are interested in.
We will have live coverage of the opening events
Right.
and the closing event, and of course, there will be massive media coverage. We'll be setting up our media centers at 2 key venues. There are about 3 major venues for this competition:
Right.
the Alex Ekweme Square, the Rujeni Sports Village in Oba, in Anambra State as well, the NYSC camp, where a lot of the indoor games will be taking place, and then one of the other hotels where games such as chess and Scrabble will be taking place.
Right.
And then the beauty of this, of the distribution of the centers is the fact that it will allow the entire state to feel
Right.
the vibe.
Like they're part of
Yes.
it. Okay.
So the entire component of the state, we are carrying everybody along. And so
Right.
from your small corner, you can easily commute to the
Say,
nearest.
I saw a bit of the games. Right.
And then in doing that, we expect that the younger people, the youth of Anambra State, particularly those at the primary and early secondary school ages, we have opportunity of being introduced to certain sporting events that were hitherto unknown to them. Because in this part of the world, the bulk of the games we're used to are football,
Yeah.
basketball, volleyball,
Track and field.
track and fields.
Yeah.
So, but in this game, they will be seeing a whole lot of activities, including darting, including archery, including swimming, a lot of games that before now were probably unknown to them.
Sounds very interesting.
And so for us is a tool, not just a sporting fiesta, it's also an educational and mobilization tool. And we also expect that we'll use this opportunity, the opportunity provided in this game, to also strengthen our relationship with members of the public,
Right.
build a sense of community, a sense of partnership, and then in so doing, deepen our concept of community policing.
Okay, stay with us. I want to talk with you some more. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat about the upcoming Nigeria police games, which critics say shouldn't be taking place at all. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Onyegola. Now, the Nigeria police force is preparing to welcome sports enthusiasts from around the country to its 12th biennial police games, which kicks off in Anambra State this weekend. Both the police and the state government are promising that it'll be the best ever in the history of the competition, but it's coming at a time when Nigeria is facing tremendous security challenges and the public perception of the police is at a very low ebb indeed. Many Nigerians believe the primary objective of the police is to engage in the business of crime prevention, investigation, detection, and law and order. It's supposed to be work that the police alone can do, and the perception in some quarters appears to be that getting involved in things like police games and expending time, energy, and money on it is simply a gimmick to divert attention from the real police grunt work that's being neglected. And with me in the studio, the Chief Public Relations Officer for the Nigeria Police, Frank Mba. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. Do you think that given the current state of worrying insecurity in the country, you might have postponed these games and that this might have inspired national confidence in the police? I mean, security is obviously a greater priority than games.
You know, Charles, I listened to your introductory remarks and they're full of very strong words, very, very strong expressions. But the truth is, sports is an integral part of policing anywhere and everywhere in the world.
Yeah, but what should be the priority?
Just hold on, hold on. In building your priority, you must build your tools. If your tools are defective, your priorities, no matter how noble they are, might never be achieved. You don't want to have a set of policemen that are unhealthy, that are unfit. Policing is a job that is mentally and physically demanding. So you need a set of men and women that are physically fit.
And you need one week of games for them to be.
It is not 1 week of games.
Right.
These athletes has been in the camp. And even when you are not competing and you have a training ground around you, you will always want to train not as a competitor,
right,
but training to keep fit. I give you an example. I walked into your studio and I ran into traffic while driving from Force Headquarters. And then I had some of your members, I had a staff of yours waiting for me downstairs. And then as soon as I was dropping off the car, he told me clearly that we are late. And I said, can you run along with me? And he said, yes. And we ran from the entrance of Hilton to the studio. And you never caught me panting.
And I never saw any sweat on your face either.
Good.
Extraordinary.
Good.
I have
so
to say.
if this officer sitting here is not fit physically, I probably, by the time I ran through this case, through the stairs to this studio, you will probably delay the commencement of your program because you need to get me
to
calm down.
Catch your breath, basically.
So that's it. So you don't want to have a police force that is populated by men and women that are physically, mentally unfit. That's number one. Right. Number two, if you look at the annal of our sporting history, without the police, and I will say this, without the police, perhaps, not just perhaps, without the police, today Nigeria wouldn't have been able to boast of one single Olympic gold medal. So how can anyone be asking about the relevance of these games?
No, we're simply asking about it in the context.
Let me tell you,
the primary objective of the police, which is
they go
law
pari
and order
passu.
and securing the country.
No, they are intertwined. You need a fit and proper policemen and women to do the job.
Yeah, but you've got
and
over 300,000 police, and you've only got 5,000 taking part in the game.
If you have over 3,000 police, 350,000 police officers, for example, and you take 3,000 or more to the games,
which is what you're doing.
Do your calculation. You discover that it is an insignificant fraction. And let me tell you, they return from the games accomplished. They return from the games fitter and better to serve the country. They return from the games and go to all Nigerian games, or probably to the Olympic Games in Tokyo, and they win laurel and help in putting the name of this country in the sporting map, in the international sporting map, as we've done before.
Okay, well, let me come in.
And as we are doing right now.
Let me come in here.
So the relevance is not in contention.
Right, okay.
It is absolutely
let me come in here.
A huge opportunity.
Let me come in
all
here,
of
because
us.
this is obviously a dialogue, not a monologue.
Yes,
And
sure.
I'm sure you well know. So what happens to policing the country during this 1 week period? I mean, you've got thousands of police going to Anambra State. You complain that there is not enough, including the head of state complains there are not enough police on the ground, that you need to recruit more police. You take these police off the ground at a time when Nigeria is facing a tremendous challenge. And you know, what happens to the gap that's created by taking these police off the beat?
Charles, we are police managers, are great planners. A police manager is a strategic thinker. You want to tell me that policemen don't go on leave anymore?
No, I understand.
You want to tell me that policemen don't do shift duties anymore? You want to tell me that policemen don't go on training anymore? we just treat this as a training exercise that is lasting for 1 week, because that's what it is.
Right. Okay.
And you just project. You know it's not taking you unawares, and so you make adequate strategic planning and strategic deployment to take care of those little gaps that ordinarily would be
Okay,
created.
fair enough. What's the biggest challenge, let me ask you this, that you face as a police force in Nigeria at the moment in terms of carrying out your primary constitutional duty, fighting crime and keeping the streets safe?
I will not want to single out one single challenge.
Well, give us a set of challenges.
I will speak to the challenges.
Right.
And a lot of these challenges are matters of public knowledge. You just spoke about inadequate manpower.
Inadequate manpower,
for example.
inadequate equipment.
Oh,
corruption.
Charles, please, can I just sit back so that you can help me reel them out?
Because we haven't got that much time left.
Yes.
Right.
I'm glad that you know them. Inadequate manpower.
Lack of equipment.
Thank you.
Lack of proper training.
Thank you.
Corruption.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Allegations of torture.
Nah, you are veering off.
Well, I'm not veering off.
You
I'm
are
talking
veering
about
off.
the challenges that you face.
Let me tell you something.
Right.
Let me tell you something. When we talk about torture, we can go talking about it forever. I know about a country that prides itself as the democratic capital of the
Yeah, but
world.
we're talking about Nigeria.
Hold on.
I want to focus
No,
on
you can't treat Nigeria in isolation.
No, we're not.
No.
No.
So when you ask me question, you allow me to answer your
But
question.
you didn't talk about all this when you were glowing about sports and all of that. Now you're bringing in other countries. I mean, let's talk about Nigeria and
the
record
Olympic
you
was
have.
not held in isolation of other
Obviously,
countries.
but that's not what
so
we're
so
talking
you can't even talk about Arise TV without talking about the world, and that's why you have got a station here, you got a station in London, you broadcast not just to Nigeria,
Right.
you broadcast to the
I'm
world.
really sorry
so
to
the
interrupt
world
you, Frank.
the world has become a global
I understand
village.
that, but I want to focus on this.
Now
because
let's
we
talk
haven't got that
about
much time.
the challenges of policing this
Right.
country, and you've listed some: the challenges of inadequate manpower, the challenges of lack of modern working tools,
Right.
the challenges of funding,
The challenges of corruption.
yes, when you talk of corruption, corruption is even a big issue because corruption affects so many other things,
Right.
including how news are even circulated. I'm in the media, and I've seen policemen that are corrupt. I've seen civil servants that are corrupt. I've seen media men that are corrupt.
I absolutely agree with you.
And deals essentially
Absolutely.
in blackmailing
But we're
people.
talking about the
I've
police.
seen
We're not
businessmen.
talking about the
We're
media.
talking about, no, you can't talk about one organization in isolation of
But
the
you're
other.
the one who's
If you
charged
do
with-
that, hold on. If you do that, you won't make progress.
No, the point is that you're given guns and you're given the charge of security, and it fundamentally undermines security when it's linked to corruption. I mean, surely you must admit that.
No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So that makes it much more important.
Corruption is a major problem. But
Right.
I'm trying to tell you that in discussing corruption, you cannot isolate, because even the quality of the education of the new entrants into the police force are also impacted by corrupt practices elsewhere. So you can't talk about anything in isolation.
Okay.
And when you do that, when you do such discussions, you fail, and you fail flatly.
Right, okay. We've got less than a minute to go. In the face of all these challenges, let's hold the police games, shall we?
The police game is taking place, and the police game is designed to help in actually fixing a lot of problems. If you have men and women that are fit mentally, psychologically, physically, you will have a better police force. And when you have a police force that is helping to win laurels for your country and reposition the image of your country internationally in positive way, you are helping your country to arise above its ashes. When you have a police game that is helping to unite the people together, you are helping to deepen security and fill trust gap, confidence gap, and build the kind of network that will help you to curb crimes at the communal level.
Frank, I have to say you've convinced me. I will watch the games.
Thank
Frank
you, Charles,
Mba is the
for
Chief
being
Public
here.
Relations Officer for the Nigerian Police, and of course those Nigerian police games taking place this weekend. You're watching the Arise interview, plenty more still ahead, including the Prime Minister of Lesotho and his wife caught in an assassination investigation involving some very sinister allegations that have all the makings of a crime novel. Stay with us.